Did you know that buying a house doesn't have to feel like a second job? That's exactly what we're here for. So tell us more about the home buying process and why it's easier to work with professional agents like us, Jen.
Well, the buying process has many steps, and it's really important to get a complete overview and then to go through it step by step together. And when you have a team that you're working with, that's much easier.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, there's definitely different parts of the process. And one of the things that I think you do really well is sitting down with buyers and explaining kind of the bird's eye view and then always telling them exactly what's going to happen next. Like, rarely do we get that call that says, what's going on? What's happening? Because we're always just prepping them for the next step.
Right. And there are many steps. So a big part of it is many people think that the place to start is at Zillow, and that's actually the last place that you want to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Smart people see homes different ways than other people. So a lot of people think that your home buying search should start with going and looking at a bunch of properties. We believe that it starts with sitting down, having a strategy session. And this is typically after you've already gotten pre-approved by a really great lender so that you know exactly what your payment's going to be, how much money you need to have saved, if there's anything we need to do to improve credit. And then actually walking them through the process, like I said, that bird's eye view of all of the next steps that are going to be happening. So when we're out showing homes, like I said, we've spent so much time in that upfront meeting where we're going to already go out and see what, maybe 5 or 10 houses max, and you're going to find the one that is the one. So what's next after seeing the homes? Or
Well,
maybe tell us more about what it's like to go see homes. Like, what's okay to do, what's not okay to do.
Well, the actual showing process can be made very efficient, and once we determine what your criteria is, we really want to just stick within that criteria for the time being, unless we make a choice to expand the criteria. But as we're setting up showings, we're really making sure that we are seeing only homes that meet the criteria in terms of price point, location, number of bedrooms. So we do like to set those up in a way that's efficient. I really like to take people in blocks of 3 or 4 homes, maybe 5 max, and we tour those homes if there's something that is a deal breaker about them. Immediately, maybe the street or something that is just a no. We kind of cut our losses there and go to the next one. So we do try and be very, very efficient with that. And typically you will know when the home is one that can work for you.
Yeah. And we break it down into also like your must-haves. So like, we're not even looking at the house if it has this. Your like to haves are good bonuses, and then your deal breakers are like what you talked about. You walk into the house and it smells like, or maybe you're still outside of the house. We've been outside the house and we can smell what the inside of the house smells like before, right?
Right.
And so just knowing like, hey, this is absolutely not going to work. I think some people get this weird guilt when they're out seeing homes with you, like they need to go look at it just because they're there. And it's like, we let people know right up front, this is not for you. We don't need to spend your time looking at it. Let's go to the next one that might be the one that you actually want to buy.
Right.
So.
Right. And it's a lot of fun. It's really a lot of fun to go see homes and to consider the possibilities and find the right one.
Yeah. Okay, so walk us through what happens next. You found the one and you are excited. I always talk to buyers about how you're going to be very nervous. You're going to be excited. I'm trying to keep this PG of what I actually say to buyers. Because what I really say is, is you're going to be really excited. You're going to feel like you need to throw up a little bit. You're going to feel like crying. You're going to feel ecstatic. And all these things will come in waves and in different days. And so just kind of like knowing that there's a lot of different things that you're going to go through. We don't just write offers to write offers. We write winning offers based on market data, psychology, and proven strategies of success. So tell us more. We found the house that we want. What do we do next?
So when we write an offer, we are making sure that we're finding out exactly what is the most important thing to the seller. We're always having a conversation with the listing agent to determine the flex points on the seller and the non-flexible points. So we know how to write an offer that is a win-win, and typically gets us under contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one of the things that I always explain to buyers upfront in the consultation, I know you do too, is I'm going to go to the seller. I'm going to get as much information as possible so that I'm going to come to you and say, here is the offer that's going to win for the seller. If you say, yeah, that all sounds good, we write it up. If you say, no, that sounds terrible because of X, Y, and Z, we say, okay, let's go find a different house.
Right. Right. Yeah. And it is an emotional roller coaster. It definitely can be. And that is really a big part of our process, is to be, the expert and sort of the calming force behind the intense emotions that you will experience as a buyer. I do feel like that's a big part of our job, is to just allow people to have their experience and to not be fazed by any of that, and to make sure that they get what they want. In terms of the end result of the transaction, getting them into that house that they really want.
Yeah. And we get good reminders too, because we're also buyers and sellers in this market. Right. And when we go through the really emotional parts, we're like, oh, we have to remember that our clients are going through this too, because we do get so used to being that calming force throughout the whole transaction.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And it is a transaction, but more important, it's an important life event. And there's so much behind it, what the idea of home and what that means, making sure that you feel like you're making a good decision. And, the idea of being guided by experts through the process is really critical.
Absolutely. So we're under contract.
Yes.
We're excited. We got the same feeling. We're going to throw up. We're going to cry. We're ecstatic all at the same time.
Yes.
Now what happens?
And now we get to sort of the nuts and bolts, the business of it, inspections, appraisals, financing, lots of moving parts. Again, all of that is managed with experts and professionals. Our job is to oversee the entire process, to help make recommendations for inspections, to coordinate some of those. The mortgage lender is going to order an appraisal, make sure that the financing is in place. So there are a lot of moving parts, but a lot of it is behind the scenes. So we're kind of overviewing or overseeing that and making sure that all those things are happening in the way that they should.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the most important part of that is that you are taken care of, that you have an expert that has your back and is overseeing the entire process. So you don't have to worry about, is the inspection, how, does the inspection come back well? Does the appraisal come back well? The whole idea is that we're with you every step of the way through that process. So that gives you a lot of peace of mind.
Yeah. And I always let people know too that, the inspector's job is to find every single thing that's wrong in the house. We've been doing this for a long time. Some things we see and we go, yep, that's a house. That's a thing that's going to happen in a house. And then some of the things we say, oh, this is actually a bigger deal. We need to get it investigated more thoroughly, or we do need to get a concession from the seller on this. And that's a big part of navigating that inspection process is, yes, it's a home. It's going to have some things that now that's part of home ownership that you get to take care of, a GFCI outlet that needs to be switched out or something like that. But let's say it doesn't have an expansion tank on the water heater. Like that's a little bit more of a bigger deal that we want to get the sellers to take care of for you.
Right. And that really is a big part of it. Helping guide you through the process and negotiating if any repairs or concessions need to be done versus the smaller things that really
honey-do list.
Are just part of home ownership.
Yeah. So the appraisal, what's an appraisal?
Well, an appraisal is ordered by the bank, assuming that you're getting a loan and not paying cash, to help protect the bank's interest and determine value. So there's an independent appraiser sent out by the bank or the lender rather, and they will determine value based on comparables in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So,
and at the end of the day, it is just an opinion of value. Oftentimes when we're in those beginning negotiating stages, we're going to look at some comparable sales and give our opinion to the buyers that might be different than what the listing agent said up front. And so we do sometimes see appraisals. I one time had an appraisal that had over $100,000 spread. Wow. We had one appraiser do it, and the listing agent said, absolutely not. We're not coming down on the price. So we ordered a second appraisal, and it came in right at the value. And so That always to me has been a big one, that it really is at the end of the day an opinion of value. And again, like you said, the bank is not going to lend on it if there's too big of a risk, if they don't think that they could sell the asset if something were to go wrong with you making the payments.
Right. And it is interesting that appraisals can come in high or low. They often come in right at value, but there are the situations where they're coming in high or low. And if that happens, how do you typically handle that, Liz?
Yeah, so if it comes in high, congratulations, you just walked into equity. We don't even have to tell the seller, which is great. We just say, appraisals at value. Congrats, you just walked into $20,000 of equity. If it comes in low, there's a couple of different strategies. Us on a team, we like to stay really educated and know exactly the best way to strategize and fight these. And have you ever contested an appraisal?
I have.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think we should be really transparent here. How much success have you had in contesting an appraisal, getting them to come up in the value?
Not much.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'd say maybe 20 to 30% of the time we get them to come up. Again, kind of going back to that beginning strategy session, and before we even write the offer, I've never really had a buyer surprised that an appraisal came in low when it did, though, because we were upfront prepared that there's a pretty good chance this is going to come in low, and what is our strategy if it does? So expand on that a little bit. Do you have kind of like a set process of how you contest it, or?
Well, I would work with the lender, right? So the lender sometimes can help prepare information, or you can pull comps and submit those to the appraiser. But often once they've signed off on it, they have a professional commitment to what they've said, so they often won't come up.
Yeah.
So another way to deal with that is to negotiate the difference with the seller if that's possible to do, which it very often is.
Yeah, and it's another reason why up front we get as much information about the seller as we can. If we know it's a motivated seller that has to be somewhere by a certain date, or there's a situation that they've got to sell this property, we know we have more power.
Yes.
If it's a situation where the seller's selling for fun, we know we probably have less power. And one of the things that we have had success with contesting an appraisal is we take a lot of classes, a lot of CE courses, continuing education about how to actually combat these things, because oftentimes agents get really emotional and they say, oh, well, our house is so much nicer and it's remodeled and it's prettier. Appraisers don't care about that. These are professionals that see in black and white. And so saying things like, this property has been more updated, or this property has this many more bedrooms or bathrooms, and really just sticking to the facts and the reasons why you believe the property should go up. That was one of my most recent ones. I actually had one come in, which we were fully expecting, and I think it ended up coming in at 20 or 25,000 low. I can't remember exactly what it was. And so, yeah, I worked directly with the lender. We pulled a few comps together and we said, hey, I think the biggest thing you're missing here is you're trying to run comps that don't have a basement. Well, this house has a basement. It's just unfinished. And so we're just like, if you just make an adjustment for a house with an unfinished basement, I think we can get the value. And yes, we got it. So that was awesome.
Nice. That's great. That's great.
Okay. What happens after the appraisal?
Well, you typically get a clear to close from the lender, and then we set up time for closing. You go through the title company, and you set up your closing, and they go through all the paperwork with you and all the details. Your lender's going to send you a closing disclosure, and you have 3 days to review that and sign it, and then you sign on the dotted line and get your keys.
Yeah, nice big stack of papers. You usually forget the date a couple times going through it, so that's always fun. And I always remind buyers too, is that those beginning couple of weeks, like once you find the house and you're going through the inspection and waiting for the appraisal, those are usually the most stressful. Yeah. And almost always, this is the only time that I ever get did I miss something or what's happening, is between the financing and the going to sign the paperwork. Because when you're working with one of our lenders that's done all of the work up front, and you're working with us, like it's just kind of a waiting period where you're waiting for everything to get done behind the scenes and then go to the title company, like you said, and sign all the paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really kind of the fun part. The tough road is coming to an end, and now you get to really be excited and finalize everything, Closing is fun. It is a lot of paperwork, but
Yeah.
it's part of the process, and it's pretty exciting when you get to the end and you can get the keys. So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So a big part of the closing process, of course, is getting the keys, but you're not just getting the keys. You're getting our team's support and resources for life. Liz, can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, right after closing, there's a couple of points where we check in with you, like how was the move? Was the AC working? Is there anything weird that you need help with? Because we have all of our preferred partners that we love to refer, and oftentimes there's a home warranty in place, and there's a lot going on, and people forget about that. And so we want to make sure that those first couple of weeks that you're moving in, we're going to have a little bit heavier contact so that you know that you can still rely on us for support. From then on, like we do a lot of really awesome client appreciation events throughout the year, as well as just keeping you up to date on what's going on in your specific area. One of the big things we do every July is send out a reminder that you're going to be getting a tax notice so that if you feel like the value is more, that we can contest that value. And we've had success with getting those property values down. I helped a client save $1,500 one year on one of those.
Wow.
So that was really cool. And then also some people, they do find their forever home and they're planning on staying there and they don't realize how much equity they've built up over the years. And so one of the really great things we do is an analysis on what your property is worth. And instead of just only focusing on what real estate you might be able to sell or buy with that equity, we give you resources for other ways to build wealth with that equity that you have in place. So yeah, it's not just sign the paperwork, here's the keys, we'll see you later. We're really making that relationship for life.
I love that. It's an important part of what we do.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling overwhelmed or under-resourced as a buyer and you would love to benefit from our team and all the resources that we have to offer, you can reach out you can call or text me at 801-518-8386. And Liz?
You can call or text me at 801-898-4963, or you can also just DM our team at ABODEslc.